Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? I trust that you're doing good and that, um, well, it's Thursday and a cold one here, snowing. And as the graphic showed, we're just dedicating this one to Angie. Um, she has crossed over and we certainly send her our best. So I hope that you're doing well. I think we would, and I'm just trying to catch up here in the chat room, everyone. So give me a second. Um, any snowmen yet? Not that deep. Uh, Good to see everyone. Cheesesteak, haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you and David and Warrior Queen, good to see everyone. Ellen, just so many people. Thank you for joining myself and the rest of the community here. So Angie's battle has ended in victory. I mean, I know it seems kind of odd to say that, but she's not in any more pain. And Patrick is, he's suffering the loss and completely normal. But I thought what we might do, and Lois, I saw you say this earlier. Why don't we just take, oh, I don't know, a little bit here at a time and just focus in on Patrick. He needs, I think, all of our best wishes and the strength for sure. And, I was told this by a shaman decades ago, way back when, that spirits who recently cross over, they're still a bridge, and sending them energy, sending them feelings of best wishes, comfort, those type of thoughts do get sent, and that energy does in fact arrive to the individual it was meant for. So tell you what, why don't we just take a minute here or so and do it in your own way. Listen, we're all telepathic. I used to pray to a God that I really thought was, real, tangible. But nevertheless, it was a great discipline in understanding the power of telepathy. So let's just take a minute, send your warmest wishes to Angie. Let's just send encouragement and uplift Patrick. Surround him with just love and, peace. I know men that are extremely wealthy. And I can tell you, I knew one that died, was there when he passed over. And he said something that, you never forget these things. They get stored in. He said, "A king's ransom would I pay for the peace before I go." He never found it. All right, so let's just take a little bit here. So I'm going to put the graphic back up. Let's just think of our friend Patrick and Angie here for a minute. We're thinking about you, Patrick and Angie. We're sending you our best wishes of joy. We're just surrounding you with the thought of warmth, goodwill, and we wish you a good journey. And Patrick, well, you know how much we care for you. So we're going to just send you the same, that warmth that peace that surpasses all understanding. And the void that's in your life, we just speak the peace. We speak love, and we know it can never replace that which you had with your Angie. But nevertheless, my friend, there is a family here in this plane that's still with you. So all the best, all the best. So let's, well, you just, it happens. It's the place that all of us are going to be at. Well, Angie has all the answers, at least all the ones that we seek here in this plane, which we call the living. I don't know how accurate that is. I have my doubts, but nevertheless, so just invoking favor on everyone, peace of mind, and, complete restoration in your life. Nothing missing, nothing broken. All right. Have some tea. I have to say, this is the first day in going on 9 days that finally feeling a little bit back 100%. So join me tonight over on theartistverse.com, the Steiger perspective. Got a good one tonight. One that you can't say on YouTube. Can you believe that YouTube flagged the video on diabetes? What has happened? But I can go over there and I can speak much more freely. Tonight's show, by the way, is titled The United Corporate States of America. So join me, and we'll get into, let's say, a little more in depth. Got my book yesterday. I've been waiting for this. Excited about this. Going to be reading it over the weekend. Did get my copy, so everyone can see that. The beginning was the end. Now, I dealt with this a little bit a couple of weeks ago, and I have been able to scan through this. This is not cheap, man. But what I can see already, yeah, consciously aware, I think you may be right. Yeah, this is going to be, I know why they didn't print this book very much. That's all I can say. I know why. Woo! Talk about being burned at the stake. My goodness, that's heresy. And it's quite interesting. So now, let's see. That's an awesome shirt. Speaking of which, all right, so this today's saying is this: common sense is so rare these days, it should be classified as a superpower. That's what I am talking about. So speaking of t-shirts, let me show you what our friend Joshua is a graphic designer. And he has been working. If you need any logos, graphics done, I want to share this with everyone. Look at that. Now I'm actually going to have t-shirts that you can actually buy if you want, getting it set up now. But is that not just cool? Joshua, I'm telling you, dude, I was a CEO of the very first B2B company that dealt with providing requests for proposals. We had over 400,000 creative professionals around the world. Anyway, my friend, I'd have hired you in a second. Very talented. I love this. This is exactly the expression I would be looking for. Now, there is yet, allow me here to, I'll be right back. Here we go. Okay. Now, allow me to get out of here. Do wop it up. Now, check this one out, folks. Is this one is my favorite. I've already ordered a sample on the t-shirt, but check that out, folks. Again, is that just not just too cool for school? Huh? Far out's all I got to say. Joshua, you are gifted, my friend. You should pursue this in all ways. So I know he, I believe, also did one for Lois. So there you go. Talent. You got to love it. Just good stuff all the way around. So got something else here I want to show you. We've talked about this before, and let me get over here and get this pulled up. Do you know what the biggest fear is for most people? As he comes over here, there we go. And this goes along with what we're talking about here today. We're talking here today in episode 3 of controlling your fear. If you can't control your fear here, what makes you think you're going to control your fear over there? I've said this, and I'll continue to say this. When you look at this, I think people are under this delusion that they're going to cross over and boom, magic, play on words, suddenly you have all the knowledge of the universe. I don't think it works that way. I don't know if we remember everything here. For a lot of people, the memory of this place is something they want to forget. I dare say, when you really get honest with yourself, there isn't a whole lot that you can say is really positive about this realm. I contend that this is the death realm. And I don't know. I don't know if a person who had to cross that bridge where pain was the only reality of consciousness. No. I can't accept that. But yet it's the reality. So people say that they can regress in their memory to when they were in the fetus stage. Maybe they can. I don't. I have had the sense when I was 5 years old, very profound. I've told this story of my aunt coming in to my brothers and our bedroom. I had the top bunk, living with my grandparents in Santa Clara, California. And my aunt coming in, kissing me on the forehead and telling me that she loved me and that she would always be watching over me. And my grandmother came into the bedroom. This was in the middle of the night. And as she was about to come in the bedroom, the phone rang. We didn't have cell phones back then, but nevertheless, my aunt had been struck by a car and was subsequently killed on the spot. So what did I see? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I can tell you as that child, it was my aunt. I knew exactly who it was. I wasn't afraid either, And so it's that crossing over. controlling the fear. Do you know I found this very interesting stat. Let me share this with you. U.S. adults are spending big on video games, playing mostly on smartphones. You want to know why? They're bored. It was not the right one that I wanted to show, but nevertheless, there is, excuse me, as he gets out of here on this, and I hope I don't get myself. So it's boredom. When I was doing the Lilith series, and I was having those interesting night visitations, it seems to be that is the biggest fear of a god. We're all gods, and that's being bored. Nothing worse. And this recent survey, get this, 64%, I believe is what it said, of all Americans are bored. Bored. I thought that this whole illusion was to allow us to have this free time for self-exploratory. Well, I don't know. Maybe most of them aren't exploring, but yeah. Crazy, isn't it? David Berry said, I started to use my smartphone so it'd make you smarter. Yeah, well, I think the jury is in on that one. That's like, no way, man. No way. So, Magick. I hope so far what we're learning, and we're going to get right into Agrippa's, we're going to just start hitting this hard. We're going to be going to Franz's book. How many of you have been practicing? If you don't have that, email me. I'll send it to you. Initiation into Hermetics. It's, as I've said before, you should have your copy of the Hermetica. It helps answers a lot. I mean, look at it like this. Let's just say before we get into our study, what's your worst fear? Demons? Those of you who are still bound by the whole guilt matrix of a devil, remember, if there is such a thing as the devil or Satan, it's an inside job, folks. If you just study the org chart, it would say that both God and Satan or Lucifer, they're in cahoots, man. They're the mafia. You know what I'm saying? That they got it covered from both ways. You know, if this guy says, I don't want these, this guy says, that's cool. I'll take them in and, you know, get the old thing, because it says that they're working together in this. You know, how many of you remember seeing the movie The Untouchables with Kevin Costner and Sean Connery? Great movie. If you haven't, go check it out. But anyway, it's like Capone, you know. It's got the bank, cops, everyone else is in on it, except for you. You know, you're the last guy on the totem pole, and they're not letting you on. So get over that. Well, thank you, Candace. It's a great series. I didn't do it. I've been debating on the whole thing about, and I'm not going to do it, the incantations. That is so, it's so over the top for most people that you can't do that. It would be dangerous to do it anyway. So let's get right into our reading of the lesson. So before we get into Henry's book, again, we should revisit what Franz is trying to teach us, the train of thought. How many of you have been practicing that? I do a lot of times in the shower. You know, I know it's odd, but, you know, hey, to each his own. There is no cookie cutter. What we have are parameters, and you adapt that to your own magic. It goes on to say that this space of time is designed to the average man. If it should not suffice, you should maybe be up to 6-7 minutes. Everyone can extend it according. Now, The attentive disciple will realize how, at the beginning, thoughts rush in on him, how rapidly they pass before him, so that he will have difficulty to recollect a lot of manifold thoughts. But from one exercise to the next, he will state that thoughts come up less chaotic, moderating little by little until at last only a few thoughts emerge in his consciousness, arriving, as it were, far from a far distance. You've practiced this already. You have. How's the best way to put it? First time you fell in love. Go back to that moment. It's there. It's still alive. That's one of the things I think that if we're in the fourth dimension, where time is that fourth dimension, the events, they never go away. They're forever stamped in that moment. And imagine this, particularly when you look at this with the puppy love, adolescence, puberty, both male, female, things are going crazy in your body, man. Your mind's going in 15 different directions. But isn't it odd that when you found that first love, that was all you could think of? You could literally have sat there for 2 hours and all you would have thought, every thought would have been attached to it. You'd have it, girls, marrying the guy, and the guys, it takes on different. But the point is, that's the discipline Franz is talking about here. It says the keenest attention ought to be given to this work of thought control, as it is the very important for magic development, a fact that everyone will realize later on. So continue to practice this. Begin to see if you can begin to get that train of thought, the one where you can recall it, because most thoughts in most people's heads go to that place called the oblivion. You don't want to go there. But so often, so many thoughts do go there to the oblivion. So providing that the mentioned exercise has been thoroughly worked through and everyone has a complete command of it in practice, he says, let us pass over to the mental training. Up until now, we have learned to control our thoughts. The next exercise will consist in not giving away in our mind to thoughts obtruding themselves on our mind, unwanted and obstinate. If you're a profound worrier, this is going to be difficult. For instance, we must be able not to occupy ourselves any longer with the task and worries of our profession when we come home from work and return to the family circle and privacy. All thoughts not belonging to our privacy must be set aside, and we ought to manage to become quite a different personality instantly. And just the other way around. In our job, all thoughts have to be concentrated in it exclusively, and we must not allow them to digress or wander home to private affairs or elsewhere. This has to be practiced time and again until it is developed into a habit. Above all, one ought to accustom oneself to achieve whatever one does with full consciousness, whether in professional work or in private, regardless whether the point is a big one or trifle. This exercise should be kept for a lifetime because it is sharpening the mind and strengthening the consciousness and the memory. So we'll continue tomorrow and pick this up. Get the book. Seriously, get the book. All right. So concentration of thought, being able to control the thought, to be able to, if a thought begins to intrude, that is a detractor, then you have to ask, where is its source coming from? Source asks us that question. Where do your thoughts originate? How do you do that? How do you originate your thoughts? Where is it coming from? You begin to tackle some of these, you'll begin to find out that in the spirit realm, our brains are, well, we not only transmit, but we're receivers. I think all too often, most people, and I don't know if it's inherent or if it's taught, but we busy ourselves to where we could never hear other frequencies. And those that do hear those frequencies are most often branded and labeled now different, unusual. We could go on with the expletives, but so in practicing magic, the thing that Henry wanted us, I think, to know that there is virtue here. Virtue is not taught today. Virtue is, well, I doubt if very few people could define virtue. You know, the person was a virtuous person. What does that mean? You know, well, it means it's a portrayal of character. Something that's not talked about is integrity, honesty, honoring one's word at all costs. These are the things that are not popular. They're used as weapons, but very seldom ever practiced. And if you can begin to focus in on the virtuous part of who you are, that's where Franz was trying to get to. And Franz wrote that book in a different time of society. When he wrote that book, I dare say society was much different. Your reputation counted for everything. And your word, your actions. You would be known by your name. And very quickly, if you soiled your name or someone soiled your name for you, it could be detrimental in your whole life. So let's go on. Chapter 2, what magic is, what are the parts thereof, and how the professors thereof must be qualified. Magic is a faculty of wonderful virtue, full of most high mysteries, containing the most profound contemplation of most secret things, together with the nature, power, quality, substance, and virtues thereof, as also the knowledge of whole nature, and it doth instruct us concerning the differing and agreement of things amongst themselves, whence it produces its wonderful effects by uniting the virtues of things through the application of them one to another, and to their inferior suitable subjects, joining and knitting them together thoroughly by the powers and virtues of the superior bodies. And notice how he capitalized that with a B. So that's indication of something much higher than ourselves. Excuse me. This is the most perfect and chief science, that sacred and sublime kind of philosophy. And lastly, the most absolute perfection of all most excellent philosophy. For seeing that all regulative philosophy is divided into natural, mathematical, and theological. Natural philosophy teaches the nature of those things which are in the world, searching and inquiring into their causes, effects, times, places, fashion, events, their whole and parts also the number and the nature of those things called elements, what fire, earth, air forth brings, from whence the heavens their beginnings had, whence tide, whence rainbow, in gray colors clad, what makes the clouds that gathered are, and black, to send forth lightning, and a thundering crack. What does the nightly flames and comets make? What makes the earth to swell, and them to quake? What is the seed of metals and of gold? What virtues, wealth, does nature coffers hold? All these things does nature philosophy, the viewer of nature, contain, teaching us according to Virgil's muse. Whence all things flow, whence mankind, beast, whence fire, whence rain and snow, whence earthquakes are, why the whole oceans beat over its banks and then again retreats, whence strength of herbs, whence courage, rage of brutes, all kinds of stones, of creepy things and fruits. But mathematical philosophy teaches us to know the quality of natural bodies, the quantity of natural bodies, and extend into 3 dimensions, as also to conceive of the motion and course of celestial bodies. As in great haste, what makes the golden stars to march so fast? What makes the moon sometimes to mask her face? The sun also, as if in some disgrace. And as Virgil sings, how the sun does rule with 12 zodiac signs, the orb that measures round about with lines. It does the heaven's starry way make known, and strange eclipses of the sun and moon. Accuturns also, and the stars of rain. The 7 stars likewise, and Charles his wain. Why winter suns make towards the west so fast? What makes the night so long ere they be past? All which are understood by mathematical philosophy. Hence, by the heavens we may foreknow the seasons all, times for to reap and sow, and when 'tis fit to launch into the deep, and when to war, and when in peace to sleep, and when to dig up trees, and them again to set, that they may bring forth amain. Now, theological philosophy, or divinity, teaches what God is, what the mind, capital M, and what an intelligence, capital I, and what an angel, what a devil, what a soul, what a religion, what sacred institutions, rites, temples, observations, and sacred mysteries are. It instructs us also concerning faith, miracles, the virtues of words and figures, the secret operations and mysteries of seals. And, as Apothis says, it teaches us rightly to understand and to be skilled in the ceremonial laws, the equity of holy things, and the rule of religions, but to regulate myself. These 3 principal faculties, magic, comprehends, unites, and articulates. Deservedly, therefore, was it by the ancients esteemed as the highest and most sacred philosophy. It was, as we find, brought to light by most sage authors and most famous writers, among with principally, I think that's called, Zamachus, and Zoroaster, were so famous that many believed they were the inventors of this science. Their track, Abaris, the Hibernian, the Hermetics, the Dangeron, the Equitus, the Hermetics followed. There were also other eminent choice men of Maricus Trismegistus, Prophorus, Isbilisk, Pontonius, Procalus, Dartanius, Ophrnus, and Thyrian, Gog the Grecian, Germa the Babylonian, Apollonius of the Tyana, O sayings who wrote excellently of this art, whose books being as it were lost, Democritus of Abaria recovered and set them forth with his own commentaries. Besides Pythagoras, Empedocles, Democritus, Plato, and many other renowned philosophers traveled far by sea to learn this art, and being returned, published it with wonderful devoutness, esteeming of it as a great secret. Also, it was well known that Pythagoras and Plato went to the prophets of Memphis to learn it and traveled through almost all Syria, Egypt, Judea, and the schools of the Chaldeans, that they might not be ignorant of the most sacred memorials and records of magic, as also that they might be furnished with divine things. Whosoever, therefore, is desirous to study in this faculty, if he be not skilled in natural philosophy, wherein are discovered the qualities of things, and in which are found the occult properties of every being, and if he be not skilled in mathematics and in the aspects and figures of the stars upon which depend the sublime virtue and property of everything, and if he be not learned in theology, where are manifested those immaterial substances which dispense and minister all things, he cannot be possibly able to understand the rational, reality of magic. For there is no work that is done by mere magic, nor any work that is merely magical, that does not comprehend these three faculties. Well, if you lack any one of them, you got your homework. Of the four elements, their qualities and mutual mixations. I love mixtions. Excuse me. I want to put an A in there. Mixtions. Why do I think of the Munchkins when I think of that? Anyway, I digress. There are four elements and original grounds of all corporeal things: fire, earth, water, air, of which all elemented inferior bodies are compounded, not by way of heaping them up together, but by transmutation and union. And when they are destroyed, they are resolved into elements. For there is none of the sensible elements that is pure, but they are more or less mixed and apt to be changed one into the other. Even as earth, becoming dirty and being dissolved, becomes water, and then the same, being made thick and hard, becometh earth again. But being evaporated through heat, passeth into air, and that being kindled, passeth into fire. And this being extinguished, returns back again into the air. But being cooled again after its burning, becomes earth, or stone, or sulfur. And this is manifested by lightning. Plato also was of that opinion, that earth was wholly changeable, and that the rest of the elements are changed, as into this, so into one another successfully. But it is the opinion of the subtler sort of philosophers that earth is not changed, but relented and mixed with other elements, which do dissolve it, and that it returns back into itself again. Now, every one of the elements has two special qualities, the former whereof it retains as proper to itself, in the other as a mean. It agrees with that which comes next after it. For fire is hot and dry, the earth dry and cold, the water cold and moist, the air moist and hot. And so after this manner, the elements, according to two contrary qualities, are contrary one to the other, as fire to water and earth to air. Moreover, the elements are upon another account opposite one to the other. For some are heavy, as earth and water, and some others are light, as air and fire. Wherefore, the Stoics called the former passives, but the latter actives. And yet, once again, Plato distinguished them after another manner, and assigns to every one of them three qualities. To the fire, brightness, thinness, and motion, but to the earth, darkness, thickness, and quietness. And according to these qualities, the elements of fire and earth are contrary, but the other elements borrow their qualities from these, so that the air receives two qualities of the fire, thinness and motion, and one of the earth, darkness. In like manner, water receives two qualities of the earth, darkness and thickness, and one of fire, motion. But fire is twice more thin than air, thrice more movable, and 4 times more bright. And the air is twice more bright, thrice more thin, and 4 times more movable than water. Wherefore water is twice more bright than earth, twice more thin, and 4 times more movable. As therefore the fire is to the air, so air is to the water, and water to the earth. And again, as the earth is to the water, so is the water to the air, and the air to the fire. And this is the root and foundation of all bodies, natures, virtues, and wondrous works. And he which shall know these qualities of the elements and their mixtions shall easily bring to pass such things that are wonderful and astonishing, and shall be perfect magic. Hold on. All right. The last is the key. He which shall know these qualities of the elements. And I just went through, and now you get into a rhythm. As I was reading that, I'm seeing all different things. It gets into almost that cadence, mantras. But look at this, folks. I mean, to me, this is the answer all of us are looking for. How do I make my life better? How do I make the time I'm here more, I don't know if pleasurable is the right word, or if it's more satisfying. I would probably think more satisfying is the way to look at this. Shall easily bring to pass such things that are wonderful and astonishing, and shall be perfect in magic. Fire is hot and dry, earth is dry and cold, water is cold and moist, air is moist and hot. Now, many of you who are practicing witches, warlocks, magicians, initiates, we practice with these things. And that's how you got to do it. I wish it was just inherent, but it's not. It would probably be something to actually go back and in this whole chapter, lay these out in almost a point by point, so that, we're all novices, but particularly the younger novices can begin to, because this can be a little confusing. But we're talking knowledge here, secret knowledge, to say the least. And I think now you can see why Franz, in Initiation into Hermetics, teaches the initiate how you have to begin to have these disciplines in order for your magic to actually have effect. It says here, Agrippa teaches here and in the chapter following that matter or substance, however much its elemental forms may change, is eternal, thus denying the dogmas that God created all things out of nothing. Mic drop, bam. All right. Let me know what you think on that chapter. I'd like to get your feedback on this. All right, let's continue. Chapter 4, of a threefold consideration of the elements. There are, then, as we have said, 4 elements, without the perfect knowledge whereof we can affect nothing in magic. Again, he's laying it out. You know, if you can't master these basic concepts, going forward is futile. Inasmuch, it's not going to work. I mean, if you want to read it simply for the knowledge sake, then by all means, that's why we're doing it. But those who begin to practice their own magic, these are requirements. Now, each of them is threefold. So that you see in the numbers, folks, yeah, some of you already are, so that the number of 4 may make up the number of 12. And by passing by the number of 7 into the number of 10, there may be a progress to the supreme unity, upon which all virtue and wonderful operations depends. On the first order are the pure elements, which are neither compound nor changed, nor admit of mixtion, but are incorruptible, and not of which, but through which the virtues of all natural things are brought forth into act. No man is able to declare their virtues, because they can do all things upon all things. He which is ignorant of these shall never be able to bring to pass any wonderful matter. Of the second order are elements that are compounded, changeable, and impure, yet such as may by art be reduced to their pure simplicity, whose virtues, when they are thus reduced to their simplicity, does above all things perfect all occult and common operations of nature. And these are the foundation of the whole natural magic. Of the third order are those elements which originally and of themselves are not elements, but are twice compounded, various, and changeable, one into the other. They are the infallible mediums, and therefore are called the middle nature, or soul of the middle nature. Very few there are that understand the deep mysteries thereof. In addition, in them is, by means of certain numbers, degrees, and orders, the perfection of every effect in anything soever, whether natural, celestial, or supercelestial. They are full of wonders and mysteries, and are operative, as in magic, natural, so is divine. For from these, through them, proceeds the bindings, the loosenings, the transmutations of all things, the knowing and foretelling of all things to come, also the driving forth of evil and gaining of good spirits. Let no man, therefore, without these 3 sorts of elements and the knowledge thereof, be confident that he is able to work anything in the occult sciences of magic and nature. But whosoever shall know how to reduce those of one order into those of another, impure into pure, compounded into simple, and shall know how to understand distinctly the nature, virtue, and power of them in number, degrees, and order, without dividing the substance, he shall easily attain to the knowledge and perfect operation of all natural things and celestial secrets. Got to go on. Of the wonderful natures of fire and earth, there are two things, says Hermes, fire and earth, which are sufficient for the operation of all wonderful things. The former is active, the latter passive. Fire, as saith Dionysius, in all things and through all things comes and goes away bright. It is in all things bright and at the same time occult and unknown. When it is by itself, no other matter coming to it in which it should manifest its proper action, it is boundless and invisible. Of itself, sufficient for every action that is proper to it, movable, yielding itself after a manner to all things that, wow, folks, I'm just getting some downloads in here. It's just amazing. That come next to it, renewing, guarding nature, enlightening, not comprehended by lights that are veiled over, clear, parted, leaping back, bending upwards, quick in motion, high, always rising motions, comprehending another, not comprehend itself, not stalling in need of another, secretly increasing of itself, and manifesting its greatness to things that receive it. Wow. This is far out. Active, powerful. These are all capitalized for those who are listening to this and not seeing it. Active, powerful, invisible, present in all things at once. It will not be affronted or opposed, but as it were, in a way of revenge, it will reduce on a sudden things into obedience to itself. Holy crapola. Woo! Incomprehensible, impalatable, not lessen, most rich in all dispensations of itself. Fire, as saith Pliny, finally, is the boundless and mischievous part of the nature of things, it being a question whether it destroys or produces most things. Fire in itself is one and penetrates through all things, as says the Pythagoreans, also spread abroad in the heavens and shining, but in the infernal place straitened, dark, and tormenting. And in the midway, it partakes of both. Fire, therefore, in itself is one, but in that which receives it, manifold. And in differing subjects, it is distributed in different manners, as cleanness witnessed by Cicero. That fire, then, which we used is fetched out of other things. It is in stones, and it is fetched out by the stroke of the steel. It is in earth, and makes that after digging up to smoke. It is in the water, and heat springs and wells. It is in the depths of the seas, and makes that being tossed with winds, warm. It is in the air, and makes it, as we oftentimes see, to burn, and all animals and living things whatsoever, as also all vegetables are preserved by heat, and everything that lives by reason of the enclosed heat. The properties of the fire that is above are heat, making all things fruitful, and light, giving life to all things. The properties of the infernal fire are a parching heat, consuming all things, and darkness, making all things barren. The celestial and bright fires drives away spirits of darkness. Also this, our fire made with wood, drives away the same, in much as it has an allegory with and is the viculatum of the superior light, as also of him who says, I am the light of the world, which is true fire, the Father of lights, from whom every good thing that is given comes, sending forth the light of his fire, and communicating it first to the sun and the rest of the celestial bodies. And by these, as by mediating instruments, mediating instruments, conveying that light into our fire. As therefore the spirits of darkness are stronger in the dark, so good spirits, which are angels of light, are augmented, not only by that light which is divine of the sun and celestial, but also by the light of our common fire. Hence it was that the fire and most wise instructors of religions and ceremonies ordained that prayers, singings, and all manner of divine worships whatsoever should not be performed without lighted candles or torches. Hence also was the significant saying of Pythagoras, do not speak of God without a light. Folks, this is knowledge you will not find anywhere else. And they commanded that for the driving away of wicked spirits, lights and fires should be kindled by the corpses of the dead, and that they should not be removed until the expiations were after a holy manner performed, and they buried. And the great Jehovah himself in the old law commanded that all his sacrifices should be offered with fire. Are you seeing some things here, folks? And that fire should always be burning upon the altar, which customs the priest of the altar did always observe and keep amongst the Romans. Now the basis and foundation of all the elements is the earth, for that is the object, subject, and receptacle of all celestial rays and influences. In it are contained the seeds and the seminal virtues of all things, and therefore it is said to be animal, vegetable, and mineral. It being made fruitful by the other elements and the heavens, it brings forth all things of itself. It receives the abundance of all things and is, as it were, the first fountain from whence all things spring. It is the center, the foundation, and mother of all things. Take as much of it as you please. Separate, washed, depurated, subtilized, if you let it lie in the open air a little while. It will, being full and abounding with heavenly virtues, of itself bring forth plants, worms, and other living things, also stones and bright sparks of metal. In it are great secrets, if at any time it shall be purified by the help of fire. These are spells, folks, and reduced unto its simplicity by a convenient washing. It is the first matter of our creation and the trusted medicine that can restore and preserve us. All right, folks, I got to break it off there, but holy crap, man. Wow. Woo. Yes, but truth figure, did you see how he wove that in there? I mean, you think about it, all of us who've studied, Old Testament. I mean, you never found out why the Israelites in their worship to this deity, demanded fire. All the sacrifices, as you know, were to be burnt on this altar. This has been prior to this, which, I can't talk to Henry, but I would say, but Henry, you did not know that actually that custom was actually one that came from the worship of Baal, which was brought in through the Chaldeans and subsequently going back to the Akkadians, etc. It's powerful stuff, folks. It truly is. I marvel at it. I hope you've enjoyed this. Yeah, that I thought so. you have to take at the time, let's all remember what Henry Agrippa lived in at the time. His upbringing and the society that he lived in, the laws were heavily dominated by not only you had two opposing forces here, not only the church, the Vatican, but the Protestant movement was in its early stages. And so Magick was a beheading offense and burn you at the stake. So Henry, and listen, I'll be candid with you, the Old Testament is a spell book as much as the New Testament is. It's just that Westerners are so ignorant. They read these books and they think that they're somehow, there's no questioning them, and they never understand the customs. They never understand the practices. I mean, let me just be candid with you. If you read the story of when Solomon built the temple, and so we're going to extend this a little bit because this is important. There was magic being performed there, specific magic. And that magic was of the blood sacrificing type of magic, black magic, dark magic. When you slay over 10,000 bulls and oxes, and they said a number of sheep that could not be counted, that went on for 7 straight days, day and night, the blood flowed out of that altar. This is your Old Testament God. Come on, folks. It is the darkest of magic. You won't hear that everywhere else. But I defy anyone to prove me wrong. The magic we're talking about here is of the pure kind, using the natural elements, understanding that elements are ruled, how they begin to interact, their properties, how they can be mastered, how they can be manipulated. But no blood sacrifices. So that's his commentary for the day. All right, folks. Join me tonight over on the Steiger Perspective. We're going to pick this up tomorrow. We're going to end this week, and we're just going to continue to push on, both with Franz's book and as we continue to get deeper. The warnings are here. This is an initiation, folks. Now, if that bothers you, then don't watch. But you are being initiated any way you look at it. So initiation into knowledge. All right. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you, all the moderators. Thank you for everyone that's been here. I appreciate it. We're learning together, and we'll continue to bring this secret knowledge out, and we're going to learn. There's already many of you that are already well-versed with this. There's new ones here, and we're just going to sit ourselves into one round table, and we're all going to learn together. Those who know a little bit more can share, and those that need to know more can ask. That's how it works. All right, folks, be good to yourself. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you later. All right, bye-bye.